decided to overturn pass interference like starting last week. But
but it's not a staple of every team.
It's ridiculous.
But hold up. It's not a staple play in every team's offense like it is the New England Patriots.
Get out of here, James.
You guys run it on every single pass play. Julian Edelman and another wide receiver just run at each other. One of them runs at the defender that's chasing Edelman, and that's why he's so freaking wide open all the time. Come on, man. That's like your only pass play, and then there's some variation going on the outside or whatever. Maybe there's play action, but who knows? But that's your basic pass play. That's how everything goes. I'm just glad they finally got you twice for it. I'm going to just move on to injuries. I have no real reason to pick the Patriots outside. They're at home, and they just lost to the Texans, so they normally bounce back. For the Chiefs, we have the running backs, Williams, Damian, and Darrell both showing up as questionable. Frank Clark also listed as questionable. For the Patriots, we already mentioned third-string tight end because Karras has a sprained MCL. He's doubtful. Also showing up on the injury report, tight end Ryan Izzo, cornerback Jason McCourty, and guard Jermaine Illuminor.
Yep. Who cares about him?
Okay.
The backup guard.
But, yeah, I've got nothing else on this game. Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the trend of the Patriots coming off of frustrating losses was not lost on any Chiefs fan last week. Like, everybody was, like, watching that Texans game and being like, okay, Texans, like, okay, beat them if you want. But just, you don't really have to make them look bad. You don't have to piss them off. You really don't. You really don't have to do that because we got to play them next week, guys. Pull it back a little bit. But that's not what happened. And I think Brady's pretty pissed off, and that is not good for the Chiefs, certainly. The other thing I think, if you're going to hang your hat on something for the Patriots, is just that while I still think that the Chiefs, have the highest ceiling in terms of like total offensive output, with everybody healthy, all that kind of stuff, everything working the way it should, I think absolutely the Chiefs can be the same crazy offense that they were last year. We just haven't seen it much this year. And it's partially because it's like never have they have everybody healthy all on the field at the same time. I saw some stat that basically Mahomes and his three top pass catchers, in terms of Tyreek, Sammy Watkins, and Travis Kelce, have only started and finished a game together 3 times this season. Last week was one of them, and they seemed like they were still kind of piecing it together, but also there was crazy wind. And so, I think there's a legitimate question there. The biggest thing is just the Chiefs' defense has improved by leaps and bounds compared to last year. It's really shown in just the last few weeks that finally this is a defense that can close out games, which is something they haven't had in a while, and that was obviously their Achilles heel last year. They're still not great against the run, but again, I unlike old school dudes like James, I don't think that's as big of an issue. The big thing is that they're 6th in defensive DVOA against the pass. And look, the Patriots have had their difficulty passing. I also think that, while the Patriots have had some game plans that have worked at times against the Chiefs, and I'm sure Belichick is going to craft something that nobody's ever seen before and the Patriots have never put on tape before and throw it at Mahomes, as he usually does, I think Andy Reid has been holding some things back too. I think that's part of what we've seen. Guys like Darwin Thompson, who got in just because the 2 running backs ahead of him, the depth chart, got injured last week, actually looked pretty good. McCole Hardman is I think he's leading the league in yards per target. The rookie, he has 12.2 yards per target, 450 yards and 5 touchdowns on just 23 receptions. And that's because they designed specific things for him to utilize his skill set, kind of like they did Tyreek Hill in his first year. But we just haven't seen much of that. And especially in the last few weeks, it's he's kind of disappeared. And I just have a feeling that Reid has a binder of fun stuff that he's been saving up for this Patriots game, because everybody knows this. I don't know if the Patriots care this much about this game, but the Chiefs absolutely had this game circled as soon as the schedule came out, and Reid's going to bring a bunch of weird new stuff. And so I'm worried about feeling confident going into this game, but I do think that the wins are at the Chiefs' backs in a lot of ways, more going into this game than any of the previous matchups against the Patriots.
The Patriots circle every game, because they go one game at a time. So they circled the game the week before. Move on. You had mentioned the McCole Hardman thing in our Slack group, and you quickly breezed by the running back situation. What is your running back situation like going into this week?
So interestingly, they just signed Spencer Ware, which to me means they don't expect to get Darrell Williams back for this game because they're kind of analogous guys in terms of dudes who, they're kind of just a guy, but they know the system and they can run with power a little bit. And that's been sort of there's been an Achilles heel of this offense outside of the fact that everyone's been banged up. That's been kind of it, is that they're just not good at short yardage. And as much as I kind of poo-pooed the idea that they were going to miss Kareem Hunt after last year, I think it's pretty clear that they do. Just because even though like Damian Williams, LaShawn McCoy, and Darrell Williams has done fine too, like all these guys can produce in this offense, but this whole offense is built with like smaller, lighter linemen that Andy Reid likes, which he uses to kind of move out and get out into the space, for complicated screen passes or, pulling a bunch of guys for sweeps off tackle, all that kind of stuff. But when it's like 3rd and 2 and you need to just get 2 yards and the other team knows you're running and you need to be able to they know you're running, you're running, and just get 2 yards, they can never do it just because of the way that this offense is set up. And kind of in general, it's a speed finesse offense where they need to do complicated things to get a few yards when, especially in the running game when you need them. And like Kareem Hunt was a guy where even if the line isn't doing great, he's a guy who's going to be met in the hole, still drive his legs for 2 yards and then fall 2 more yards forward. He's going to get that. And the Chiefs just don't have that guy on the roster right now. So that's the one thing I worry is if the Patriots can get the Chiefs into a lot of 3rd and 4th short yardage situations, they're going to have to do weird stuff that's a little bit lower percentage than just, trying to push the other team off the ball because the Chiefs just aren't equipped to do that.
Well, and that's my only hope. Quite on, like I mentioned, I think the Patriots defense is good enough to keep it close, but the Chiefs defense is good enough to stop what supposedly a Patriots offense. I saw Tom Brady is ranked 29th in completion percentage this year in the NFL. And a lot of that, and people will point to that and be like, oh, Tom Brady is done. Tom Brady's not done. Tom Brady looks perfectly fine out there. The problem is he's getting no time from his offensive line to hit wide receiver. It was funny because Chris Collinsworth during the Texans game kept saying that none of these wide receivers are open. And yet my boy Matt Chatham pointed out on one particular play, the guys were in fact getting open, but Brady wasn't getting enough time out of the offensive line. It was Marcus Cannon in particular who couldn't get the block set, and Brady's ducking a sack at that particular point. And if he didn't have to duck, he had Jacoby Myers wide open over the middle, but he couldn't throw it at that time because he's ducking from getting a sack. And by the time he gets back up, Jacoby Myers is now covered, and now there is no one open. And anyway, it's all
that Cannon guy is a big liability. Because once the Texans figured that out, it was a wrap, and whoever lined up over him just pretty much whipped him to Brady all night. So he was under duress.
And by the way, it's not just a Cannon thing. It's a lack of a blocking tight end whose name was Gronkowski that is also hurting. It's not Gronkowski as a receiver. It's Gronkowski as a blocker that this team is missing as well. That's been the biggest problem with the offense this season.
On the plus side, CBD oils are doing really well.
I'm sure. I'm sure they are. We spent a ton of.
I just want to throw out one last thing. My final salvo.
Like 20 minutes on this game, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, we knew that was going to happen as soon as I came on. Anyways, the Patriots this year have never won a game in which the opponent scored 14 or more points, which is kind of a crazy stat, but that's how good their defense has been, and that's how terrible their opponents have been. The Chiefs have only scored less than 26 points twice since Mahomes came to town, and never below 16. So it's good there. I guess it's on Brady. It's kind of a weird thing to say going into this game.
The last 4:00 game, if you're still with us, the last 4:00 game is the Pittsburgh Steelers 7-5 at the Arizona Cardinals 3-8-1. Steelers 13th in the power rankings, the Cardinals 24th. Steelers favored by 2.5 games. And despite the fact that they have a strong defense, the Steelers have a duck color at quarterback. And I feel this is a quote unquote get right game for the Cardinals. So give me those home dogs in another Monty special. Arizona punches Pittsburgh in the mouth. Nick agrees with me, but James, you think Duck Dodgers and the Steelers will get it done?
Look, I didn't think the Steelers were supposed to be remotely involved in the game last week with injuries all over the place. No Smith-Schuster, no Connor, both listed as questionable this week again with a knee and shoulder, respectively. And I thought it was a game Cleveland should have just destroyed them. But again, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh won. Kudos to Mike Tomlin. And look, we have members of our Slack group on this, who contribute to this podcast, who for the last 3 to 5 years have been calling for Tomlin's head on the platter and that he should be fired as a Steelers head coach. If this season is not a reason for him to stay, I don't know what is. The dude should get Coach of the Year consideration, if not win it. But I mean, you take away 3 top talents from this team from the last 2 years in Roethlisberger, Brown, and Bell, and replace them with the revolving door that they've had at quarterback, Smith-Schuster and Connor, and then they lose those guys too, and they still win a game that they had no business even being remotely a part of. Yeah, I'm going to ride with the Steelers in this one. Only glaring injury for the Cardinals is Jonathan Bullard is doubtful with a hamstring injury.
I'm not going to say that Tomlin's seat should be hot. And I'm sure if I went to the ESPN article, it would say it's not hot either.
It's not hot at all.
I believe that the Coach of the Year award is Harbaugh's to lose at this particular point in time. I don't think.
No doubt.
I don't think that's in question. If we're talking Lamar Jackson is the MVP of the league, I got to imagine that Harbaugh is the Coach of the Year.
But look at what Tomlin's been doing with this team, considering they started 1-4, and have only lost 1 game since.
Yeah, that's impressive. I don't think there's much more to add to this game. I think it's one where the Steelers are not the Steelers that you grew up with, and neither are the Cardinals. But I do think the Cardinals are different enough, despite the Steelers having a strong defense, that they'll be able to come out on top. I mean, the only thing the Steelers got going for them is the fact that they're used to the offense that the Cardinals will be running, because
that's Baltimore.
It's essentially what they're trying to do. They're trying to copy Baltimore a little bit more. All right. So Sunday night football is the Seattle Seahawks 10-2 at the Los Angeles Rams 7-5. Seahawks are second in the power rankings. The Rams at 14th. The Seahawks favored by 1 point. In this particular game, no matter what, it's going to be a close one. The Seahawks squeaked by with a 1-point victory in their meeting in Seattle. Last year in LA, the Rams won by 5. Russell Wilson aims for his 4th in a row versus the Rams with 3+ touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 120+ rating. Jared Goff aims for his 4th in a row versus Seattle with 300+ passing yards. Only because this game is at home, I'm going to take the Los Angeles Rams. I know home field advantage means nothing for the LA teams. You two are going with the Seattle Seahawks, and quite honestly, I couldn't argue strongly either way.
I'm only going with the Seahawks because good performance on Monday night. They're playing well at, again, the right time of the year where you should be peaking. They're not dominating their competition, but they do have Russell Wilson, and in close games, I trust him more than I trust Jared Goff. These are 2 strong defenses. I don't expect this to be a high-scoring game in the 30s like we got in the last matchup that Seattle had. Probably a 20-23 type game, 24-21, something like that. Shouldn't be that big of a scoring difference. Seattle has a very good ground game, and it doesn't involve Russell Wilson too much. He's buying time making throws downfield, but he's not as much of the running game as he used to be. On the flip side, the Rams, look, I get they beat the Cardinals last week and they lambasted them and everything, but before that, I don't know what this team was doing or what they were trying to accomplish. Defense, they're okay. I guess Jalen Ramsey hasn't done much to improve anything on that side of the ball. On offense, once Todd Gurley's eliminated from their offense, this offense doesn't go anywhere because Goff can't put the team on his shoulders to carry them. So that's the main reason I'm going with the Seahawks. And, no matter where they play, I would still pick the Seahawks in this